This is my intro music. Welcome to the video. I hope you like it lots, so don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Now let's react.
Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome to another episode of An Anthropologist Watches another creator called Lemon Shortbread Bites, who usually does compilation-style videos, but 2 weeks ago made this lovely video. And before we go too far, I have a cold, so if I sound particularly stuffy, that's why. Now, 2 weeks ago would have been August the 13th, I think now. Yeah, August the 13th. Today is August the 27th. And when I heard this video the first time, I was watching it with Kicking Geese, and through their live, obviously. I wasn't over at their house. I'm not that cool. But I was watching it and I was like, yes, this video. I need to react to this video because a lot of what was being said during this video really kind of resonates with a lot of what we discuss here on the channel when we discuss the dark anthropology. Because a lot of what the dark anthropology is also within a subfield of called moral anthropology. And that's been a concept that was put together. I mean, it's been around for a while, but there was a book that was published in 2012 called A Companion to Moral Anthropology. It was an edited book by Didier Fassin, I think is how it's pronounced. It's a German last name, and I know I'm probably butchering it, and I apologize. But it's an edited volume, and I will leave a link down below if you guys are interested. We're going to use the introduction from the book, but there is another author in there who's we're going to use a different document of, but they are also in the book. But Didier Fassin in there basically argues for a moral anthropology, and moral anthropology overlaps with dark anthropology in a number of ways, but most notably, moral anthropology asks how people everywhere use the ideas of good and bad to shape their world, while dark anthropology is looking at how those exact same ideas get tied up with the ideas of power, inequality, and suffering. And we look at those particular topics through the lens of manipulation when we are looking at YouTube, because we are specifically looking at YouTube when we look at things on this channel. So we can get very, very specific. Trust me. Now, am I going to sit here and say that Lemon gets incredibly deep? No, that's what we're going to do, because I'm going to tell you guys right now, that's what we do here. We think about things too deeply sometimes. So there you go. Am I going to be applying dark anthropological principles to Lemon herself? No. Will I be applying them somewhat tangentially to the video? Yes. Am I saying that Lemon is being manipulative? Actually, yes, because by every time I put one of these videos together, I tell you, video is inherently manipulative. There you go. Do I think Lemon is being malicious in the manipulation? No, I don't. I think this video, actually, what I really like about this video is the self-awareness within this video. And Lemon, I wouldn't even be on my radar had it not been for Kicking Geese, but now they are, so there you go. So, we have these wonderful notes that I'm going to go over, and there we go. I do have timestamps, so if you see me dipping my eyes down here to look at things, that is why. Now, we have a couple articles that I will be referencing as we go, one of which will be Didier Fassin's article, introduction from the book, A Companion to Moral Anthropology. The introduction is just the introduction. What is the exact title of it? Towards a Critical Moral Anthropology. That is the actual title of it. And then we will also be using an article from Joel Robbins, who is another author inside that companion, the edited volume that I was telling you about. But we're going to be using Joel Robbins' article that he co-authored with several others, which is called Anthropology Bright and Dark, Relativism, Value, Pluralism, and the Comparative Study of the Good. We're going to be looking at that, which is Joel Robinson's direct response to Sherry Ortner's article, which is entitled Dark Anthropology and Its Others, Theories Since the 80s, where Ortner is talking about the darker aspects of anthropology, anthropological study, and the study of inequalities within societies, right? Robbins actually argues against Ortner somewhat, in that everything that it's basically Ortner is arguing the dark side of anthropology, where Ortner's focused on all of the darker aspects of society and the negative implications thereof. And Robbins is like the silver lining guy. He's trying to find the silver lining in all of that, and which actually creates an interesting dynamic when we're talking about Lemon's video, because there are numerous times throughout Lemon's video where Lemon points things out. I don't need that note anymore. Where Lemon points things out about how being a reaction channel to Amberlynn, and I would argue to any lolcow, because we cover more than one here on this channel, how it creates a moral dilemma. And this is where we tie Fassin in with the moral anthropology. It creates a moral dilemma because we, the reaction community, are in essence benefiting from the suffering of said locals, right? Don't get me wrong, they're the ones putting the videos out there. All right, I'm not going to play this game, but we are also making videos based off of those videos that are put out there by said lolcows, right? And we're using the term lolcow from Know Your Meme, and Lemon will define that in their video, so I'm not going to go into it here because they'll do that for us. So we will be using 3 lenses. We're going to be using Ortner's Dark Anthropology, which is how suffering and domination dominate our gaze. We're using Fassin's Critical Moral Anthropology, which is how watchers use moral vocabularies to justify cruelty. And we're also going to be using Robinson's Value Pluralism, which how even in cruelty, communities create new forms of meaning and good, right? So Robbins is going to be the interesting counterbalance to Ortner and Fassin, because though those two do seem kind of like dark, if you will, they're not they are critical, yes, but they're not necessarily like icky, bad, you're a horrible person. They're just being critical, right? And like we say to the girls, criticism is not negativity. It's just criticism, right? And if we're going to be critical of the girls, we have to be critical of ourselves as well, whether we like it or not, right? And that is the door that Lemon opened in my head, and now you all have to suffer as well. And at this point, if you're still stuck on this video, strap in, because it goes downhill from here. So there you go. We talk a lot on this channel, we being the plural me. We overthink things. We are definitely going to do that throughout this video. If that's not your kind of video, you've had your warning. If you have questions going through this video, please use timestamps when you leave comments down below, because I guarantee you I will forget whatever the hell we're talking about by the time I get done with this video. And that's pretty much what I've got. I think I've set everything up. I will be referring to Ortner, Fassin, and Robbins as we go through. I will have links to those 3 documents down below. I will have a link to Lemon's video. Lemon also has links within their own video, so there will be, if you go to Lemon's video, and I highly, highly suggest that you do, and please watch the whole video over there, or at least give them a thumbs up and let them know that you have been watched, that this video has been watched. Anyway, my point is, they also have references in their description, so there's a lot of extracurricular reading that you could be doing. All right? Don't ever let it be said that I don't put too many damn links down here for you guys. All right? Too many links. All right. So, make sure I've got everything going. I do have Lemon sped up. So, we're going to start off with Lemon, and we're going to go in with the idea of why do so many people watch Amberlynn Reid? Why is she considered a lolcow? And how does someone's life become endless fodder for entertainment? And what does that say about us, the audience? There you go. There's your questions for thought as we go forward.
Uh-oh, another faceless girl growth creator makes a face reveal.
I want to know what these books are back here. And yes, as much as I'm going to be talking high and mightily, I am also going to be stopping to interject my other random thoughts because somebody somewhere told me I have ADHD and then they retired. Jerk. I hope he's having a good retirement, honestly.
Uh-oh. I'm sure this one in badly.
Oh my god, lemon shortbread?
I'm not slowing that down and I'm not going back for it.
Bites? Wait, I want that.
Gimme. Poor wifey.
Who is Amberlynn Reid? Amberlynn Reid is many things. She's a 500-pound woman, first and foremost, microplastics farm, soup chef extraordinaire, poet and filmmaker, fur mama, supersized Ramona Flowers, figure of controversy, bingo champion of Oklahoma, conspiracy theorist, freak, human rights advocate, vegetarian meat eater, marathoner. Simply put, Amberlynn Reid is an infamous YouTuber. But why is she so, I guess, disliked?
All right, so I know starting off strong. Lemon starts off with a catalog of what is Amberlynn Reid, right? And Ortner says that this flattens Amberlynn into a series of contradictions because they are, a vegetarian meat eater kind of a thing. And this is, in a way, defining her characteristics as a lolcow, right? And it is opening the door for ridicule of a person and putting her underneath a lens of spectacle, right? Fassin says that the language being used is moralizing, right? Again, it's not the only one that we use, but, meat-eating vegetarian, right? Those words have meaning to certain groups of people. What does she call her? Microplastic farm. What was another one? Oh, if any of us know the history of Amberlynn Reid, the fur mama, right? Even Lemon has another compilation, a set of compilations on their channel going over Amberlynn's stellar pet ownership. That's sarcasm, by the way. So that kind of a thing. But the language is moralizing, also going back to the concept of conspiracy theorist. So in that litany that Lemon sets up at the beginning of this, of the video, within not even the first minute, Lemon is already coloring the audience's view of Amber going into this video. Now, I would argue that you wouldn't even be watching this video if you didn't already know a little bit about Amberlynn. This is not an introduction to who Amberlynn is. This is not a history of Amberlynn. This is a deep dive into why we, the audience, we, the creators, we, the reactors, interact with Amberlynn. So coming into this video, we already have our opinions of Amberlynn. So to say that Lemon here in this moment is influencing us to have a particular opinion of Amberlynn, I think is a little, I don't think is the correct way to look at this, because we wouldn't be here on this video if we didn't already have an opinion of Amberlynn, right? Now, Robbins, with his value pluralism, says that yes, this is a catalog of contradictory and maybe negative moral traits, but it's a bonding ritual. And it's, for the viewers, it's, again, repeating and remixing these absurd traits creates inside jokes, which creates solidarity, and it also allows for recognition of each other, right? We get the jokes, right? We get the fur mama joke. We get the freak joke. When she throws up the picture of Amber wearing the black hat and her black shirt and her black costume, we all know what clip, well, most of us know what clip that comes from and what Amber says in that moment. And then Lemon says, humanitarian. So we understand why that picture with that statement is an inside joke, right? We get it because we're all there. This is how we as a community, we have connected. Again, Robbins argues that even though these might be negative traits, that what we are doing might be negative behavior, though I don't even think Robbins argues that it's negative behavior, honestly. Though it might be these things, it is still community building, and it is still positive reinforcement in a good way, right? See, Amber builds community, just not the community she wants.
Okay, first I need to get real for a second. Hi, I'm Lemon, and I've been editing and uploading compilation videos about Amberlynn Reid for, I think, a year now. And listen, I know we're all in this circle of hell together, but for me, being a gore world creator is so embarrassing. I didn't even like people knowing that I watched her in my free time, and now I'm attaching my whole face to a channel where I make 20-minute compilations of her cooking or like mistreating her pets. This is like, I need to cut my internet access. They need to ban me from the internet.
Her introduction is actually pretty important because it sets the tone here. And this moment of self-awareness is actually one of the reasons why I was so interested. I'm trying to get my notes centered here. Is one of the reasons why I was so interested in reacting to this video in the first place. Lemon admits that being a girl world creator is embarrassing. And I can kind of relate to it. I can kind of relate to it a lot, actually. But Ortner says that this is reflexive guilt. She feels embarrassed, but yet still participates, right? I would say, yeah, it's embarrassing, but I'm still participating because it's still fun. It's a guilty pleasure, right? Which, you know, Fassin says, much like Anthropology, this is profiting from documenting of suffering, not creating the suffering, documenting the suffering. These are different things, right? Robbins says even in the shame, there's a good here because it's a shared spectatorship, right? And we the audience find belonging in this. Now, keep in mind at the beginning here, I said the girls are the ones that put these videos out there, right? We are not forcing them to do this. They are putting it out there. And this is where Robbins and Fassin come in. They're not implying that we are creating the suffering. We are simply spectating. Yep. We are simply spectators of the suffering that is being put out there by the girls themselves. And this will come back later when we start talking about commodification. And we've talked about this in the past on the channel in other aspects of dark anthropology when we talk about when all of the girls commodify their bodies through their videos, they commodify their obesity, they commodify their own suffering, they commodify other aspects of their lives, and they do that through their videos, and then we kind of piggyback off of that through our reactions, right? So we're already aware that we do this, okay? Robbins says that there's a sense of shared belonging through that spectatorship, and he is not wrong, in my opinion, because, you know, there's Reddits, there's Discords, there's Facebook channels, there's other places on the internet where people gather to discuss not just Amber, but other members of the girl world, right? Ortner, I think, is the most critical. I think Ortner's the most critical of the three here. Because Ortner takes the darkest, they're the one that termed dark anthropology. Ortner takes the darkest view of these kind of things and probably the most critical view of these kind of things. Fassin tries to take a more larger view of what's going on, though keeping in mind that since anthropology is the study of humanity, humanity obviously contains humans. Anthropology being humans, studying humans, it is impossible for us to not participate in the study and the behavior itself. Ergo, it is impossible for us not to participate in this, so we can't be unbiased, right? That's what Fassin says. But Fassin says that there is a moral economy of attention here when we're talking about the content that the girls put out. We're going to focus on Amber for the most part in this video, but again, this could be applied to any of the girls. But Fassin says that there's a moral economy of attention here when we're looking at the content that Amber puts out, and then we as reactors and content consumers participate in it. But again, Robbins reinforces that the whole "why are you here" highlights that the the whole watching of Amber, the Amberverse, I mean, it has its own name, generates a sense of belonging, right? In the Discord, we get together and we talk about aspects of the Amberverse, aspects of Amber. And I can see when I watch the Discord, the discussions inside the Discord, I can see that people find aspects of Amber's life to commiserate about, to bond over, to, share. And sometimes people even find growth from it. Not because Amber herself is providing it, but Amber provides vectors for people to launch off from, and places for people to, connect through. I think the most recent thing would be Tammy. And I know it's Amber adjacent, but I would say that like Tammy being the biggest controversy right now to have rocked the Amberverse, I see a lot of people, not like Team Tammy, not Team Tammy, that kind of thing, but I just see a lot of people like bonding over their perception of Tammy, or their perception of how Tammy's being received, or they're identifying with or not with Tammy, kind of a thing. And it's that kind of thing is what we're talking about here, as far as like creating belonging and creating a community here. And Tammy is Amberlynn adjacent. She's part of the Amberverse, whether she wants to be or not. She is now. And that's kind of what Robbins is talking about here. But that does go back to both what Ortner and Fassin are talking about when we're talking about the commodification of suffering, because you can't convince me Tammy's not suffering, right? And Tammy's objective with coming forward was to create suffering for Amber as well. Now, we can have another debate about that some other time, but that's what I'm trying to kind of pull in here to relate to this, because this was 2 weeks ago, and that was before Tammy started her shenanigans. I think it was right before Tammy started her shenanigans. But anyway, all right. We'll get through this, I promise.
Why do I do this?
Why do I do
Why am I
this?
here? Why are you here? Why are we both here, witnessing the life of a person being ruined by her own actions?
Right.
You might ask
Modification
me,
of
why am I
suffering.
so obsessed with a woman that I don't know, will never know, and hasn't done anything personally to me?
This moment of self-reflection and self-awareness is absolutely stellar, by the way.
Level with me. This was me when I started watching Amberlynn Reid. I was the ripe age of 14 and as self-conscious and insecure as a teenager can be, which I am totally not anymore. And if you can tell by the ghost of YouTube past over there, my favorite YouTuber was PewDiePie. I started watching him when I was very young, and I was like 8 and just learning English, and these videos were my thing. Anyways, back then I had no
Man, Amnesia, that was a hell of a game.
idea what lolcow internet culture was. But I've always loved YouTube. I really like comedy and video games, which led me to Let's Plays, which led me to commentary, which led me to, I suppose, dark and controversial topics. YouTube made me nosy, I think. I was a very nosy 14-year-old with an iPad and too much free time. PewDiePie makes this video a couple of years later, an expose on a company known as BetterHelp. And lo and behold, these two pop up.
I find that interesting that PewDiePie made a video where Amber and... This is a pixelated picture of Amber and Beck. I don't know why it's pixelated, but I'm just letting you guys know that that's who it is. It's during the live stream era, while they were together. So, just letting you guys know what I'm looking at here. Like I said,
I look at the channel, watch Amber's reaction to PewDiePie, and then some other of her videos, and I just remember thinking something like, whoa, I'm not the fattest person in this world. No, in all seriousness, it was the first time I've watched videos of just a normal person with nothing particularly remarkable about them living their life. No video game, no commentary, nothing, just vlog style content. And also, let's face it, I've never seen someone as big as her, except in like exploitative TV shows or like the movie Seven, I guess.
If you've ever seen the movie Seven, we're not going to go into it. So this is... Ortner says that this is morbid curiosity. This reflects morbid curiosity. I think Lemon even goes on to call it that at some point, where it's turning someone's mundane life into a spectacle of failure. Schadenfreude. We'll go into Schadenfreude. Fassin says that this is framed as concern. I don't necessarily think it is concern because Lemon didn't necessarily say that she was like checking in to see if Amber was still there. She just checked in out of curiosity. So, but this, Fassin would say that this is being masked as a form of moral judgment. And I mean, seeing how Lemon ties this back to the movie Seven. Seven was about this is gonna get demonetized. Seven was about a schmurderer. Am I allowed to say murderer? Fuck it. Seven was about a murderer who was going around killing people as per the 7 deadly sins, and one of them was gluttony, and that's the individual she's talking about, Amber resembling. So that is literally a moral judgment. So Robbins, however, is saying this isn't about cruelty, especially for a 14-year-old viewer. This was their first exposure to a different side of YouTube that wasn't just games and comedy, but was more of a slice of life, of everyday life, and seeing an individual who was so incredibly different, both lifestyle and culturally, from themselves, right? So again, Robbins is putting, the positive spin on this thing, right? Or would put a positive spin on this thing.
I was intrigued, but not as invested. After all, she didn't make Happy Wheels videos, so I didn't care for her. And it's
Happy Meal videos? Do people do that? Of course they do.
stayed like that for a while. I'd occasionally pop back into her channel to see how she was doing, see if she had lost weight, I don't know, something different. I'd get hooked for a couple of days, and then I just go. Closest thing I can compare it to, and this is gonna sound fucked up, but you know when you're playing The Sims, and you get bored of it because you're cheap like me and don't want to pay
We all live in a simulation.
so much money for the packs. So you look up ways to make The Sims more enjoyable again. And there's this cute little website that says, make a sim with attributes you wouldn't usually like. So you make this little stinky guy in your computer, which you don't really
All hail the great leader.
like, and it's public enemy number 1. And you just have him there until his stove catches on fire or he becomes like a plant sim. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Jim Pickens is a goddamn legend.
It's fun for 30-minute intervals. Anyways, how did we get here? Without being too specific,
Sounds like
I
we did.
developed some issues up in here, which made me have issues down there. And that made me seek out content about food and body image, which led me right back to Amberlynn Reid. And this time, I was in the swamp. She became sort of like my white noise. My brain developed a fascination where her content was just so easy for me to digest. It didn't need much brain power, obviously. It didn't make me laugh, it didn't make me angry or sad, it just was there. So it was a perfect background noise that added just a little plus of making me feel better about myself. Then I'm learning how to use CapCut, so I decided to make my own compilations. I uploaded them to this channel, and now I'm here, and you're here, and we are here together.
I find it interesting that Lemon admits that the Amberlynn, because she's mentioned, I assume she's saying that she's watching Amberlynn's videos raw without a reaction channel, and it's interesting that she's admitting that it's just white noise, that you can just turn it on and just hit play, and it doesn't require any kind of mental engagement in order to consume it. And I can kind of understand what she's saying, because if you're not trying to critically engage with it, i.e. reaction channel, it really doesn't require any kind of thought process. And honestly, if you're not trying to critically engage with it, you don't have to think about it, right? It doesn't require you to even try to think about her content, because it is so 90% of the time so incredibly mundane and just empty. It's like Lemon said, it doesn't make you laugh, it doesn't make you cry, unless she's in one of her kicks. And even then, even her highly emotional videos, they're not even that high emotion, right? So I just find it very interesting that Amber can be white noise because her videos are so lacking in just in general engagement that you can just put them on like background, cafe sounds, it's just Amber is cafe noise, I guess.
And I'm so glad you guys are here. And listen, the reason I think many girl world creators turn into lolcows themselves,
This is really important, actually.
is because they often try to find ways to make the content we do sound like it's something productive. Let me be the one to tell you that 90% of the content from this community and this side of the internet, mine included, is just mean-spirited entertainment.
Very important statement. 90% of the content is just mean-spirited entertainment. Oh, sorry, let me finish.
And that's okay.
That's the important part. Mean-spirited entertainment. So, Ortner would call this cruel optimism of spectatorship, mocking Amber as a way to feel better about one's own despair, which Lemon has already stated multiple times by this point that she was watching Amber with that background thought of, well, it's not me, or this makes me feel better about myself, kind of a thing. And how many of us have said that about Amber, right? Either Amber makes us feel better that she's not us, we're not her, but for the grace of God go I. I know I butchered that one. And how many people have said, you know, Amber inspires me to lose weight so I don't become her, kind of a thing. So there's that that spectatorship value of Ortner's there. And lost my train of thought. Fassin says this is morality as entertainment. Fassin says this is masking the cruelty, or would say this is masking the cruelty and possibly legitimizing ridicule. I don't necessarily feel like we are being overly cruel, but that being said, going back to what Lemon says, 90% of the content is just mean-spirited entertainment. She's going to go on to use this really great chart that I wish I could find a larger version of, but I spent way too much time finding articles and not enough brain power finding charts. There you have that. But if what Lemon says is correct, she is backing up Fassin's point here, right? And that is that this is cruelty. I know it's a harsh word, but we're doing it for entertainment purposes, right? And you know, it's her saying that reaction channels are trying to make themselves, I'm paraphrasing at this point, but reaction channels are trying to make it seem like their channels are more than what they actually are. I mean, but the reality of the situation is, as many fancy words as I want to put into this channel, and as many times as I'm like, we overthink shit over here, I'm talking about Amberlynn Reid. I'm talking about Girl World. I'm not talking about deep politics over here, or like the cure for cancer or anything of that interest. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the self-awareness from Lemon is actually like pretty refreshing. And it also is just kind of like, yes, exactly. Like we all could use a little bit of like drop in the bucket self-awareness here. Myself included. I include myself in this when I talk about this kind of stuff. And I'm usually pretty upfront when I say that. And let's see. But Robbins says that with his, pluralism, he says that the actual watching of Amber reminds viewers that it could be worse, and that this is actually a good thing because though messy, it forms a form of comfort. Again, going back to Schadenfreude. So, it could be worse. We could be Amber. So there's that whole concept there. Again, Robbins is always trying to find the silver lining here. But there is that. But I think this moment here, this 90% of the content is just mean-spirited entertainment, and that's okay. I think that is going to end up being the beginning of the crux of Lemon's argument here as we go forward. So I wanted to highlight this moment and put it in our brains.
I guess. I don't feel bad about it. In the context of the internet, it's a strange phenomenon that's a line between being morally great
I like this chart. I can't find it. I didn't look for it very hard either.
and morally wrong. And I think I'm still right around here. I have several and more reasons to dislike this individual, and I could easily name the worst ones to get you guys to be on my side. But let's be real, I'm not making commentary or compilation videos on every animal abuser over there, especially not about their cooking. So why do I do it? Why am I quote-unquote obsessed with Amber? Honestly, the main reason I've had since I started watching her when I was 14 is that I'm just glad it's not me.
And that goes back to what Fassin was saying, where, the good that comes out of watching this is, that it could always be worse. I'm glad it's not me. A little bit of the silver lining there. All right, we're going to get into the lolcow debate. I didn't know there was a debate. Apparently there is.
There's a bit of a debate around this, but I really do think Amberlynn Reid is a lolcow.
I didn't know people didn't think she was a lolcow.
Know Your Meme, the fountain of reliable information, by the
Always.
way, defines a lolcow as a derogatory way to describe a highly exploitable person online, such as those who post a consistent flow of cringeworthy content. Lolcows generate a steady stream of lols, mostly as a result of trolling, but also as a result of lack of self-awareness about the content they're posting. Essentially, anyone who regularly produces content that can be exploited might be deemed a lolcow. Now, why do I think Amberlynn Reid being a lolcow is up for debate? Mostly, and I think it's honestly quite weird, Amberlynn's watch audience is very different from the audiences of most well-known lolcows.
I will say before we get into this, because this is like the 9th time I've watched this at this point, I don't necessarily agree with Lemon's argument going forward, but that's okay. I'm interested if you guys do, because Lemon's making an argument. And I'm just interested to know, like, if you guys agree with this part of the argument or not. I don't necessarily think this is true, that Amberlynn's, because the argument is that she's going to make is that these are semi-exclusive traits to Amberlynn's audience, which is what makes Amber unique among lolcows. And I don't necessarily think that's true, as I keep saying. But I just kind of want to draw everybody's attention to it right now so that you'll be listening to it, because I want to know if you guys agree or disagree. And again, drop timestamps, because by the time I get to comments, I won't remember where we're at.
It is staggeringly different, actually. The kind of people who watch Amberlynn, me included, are also the type of people not usually well-liked among the cesspools of like Reddit and 4chan users that make fun of people like her.
That might be true, because those are not usually great parts of the internet in general.
There's a lot of women in this community in the girl world. There's a lot of LGBTQIA plus watchers and creators. There's racial minorities and even other plus-size people that agree that she sucks.
I mean, I don't disagree with that statement, but I don't think that's unique to Amber.
And she sucks in an interesting kind of way. The type of people that would hype up or defend others like Amberlynn seem to hate her.
Because she's deplorable. But again, I don't necessarily think that's unique to Amber either.
Now, in this Reddit thread about why people watch lolcows,
Lemon is going to put up a couple different Reddit threads. I'm not going to read these out loud, and I know I typically do, but they are long, and there's several of them. If you guys want to read these, I highly recommend going and watching Lemon's video and just pausing them and reading them. There are some interesting arguments being made in these posts. However, Lemon kind of summarizes them pretty well, so it's not necessary. And yeah, I just don't want to read them. Also, my voice is kind of going, so I want to save it for my own arguments. Now, Lemon does say that there's a debate around this, but I really do think Amberlynn is her audience is different and unique because there's a lot of women, LGBTQ plus, racial minorities, and even plus-size people. Ortner says that this makes this a structural humiliation because Lemon is arguing that Amber's audience is unique. Again, I don't think her audience is unique in that way. I don't think this is a unique audience to Amber, I guess is where I'm going with this. I'm not arguing that those people don't belong in Amber's audience. And I do believe that the majority of her audience identifies female. All right, that's not what I'm debating. But Fassin also says that this is a form of moral sorting as well, because the identity politics of minorities and women, and then using that to claim that that is what makes Amber's audience unique, is part of this. And again, I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think that this is a unique aspect to Amber's audience, only because the same overlap, and this is why I say this, and again, argue with me if you guys want, argument in, like, you know, the nice way of arguing. the same people that watch my content on Amber also watch my content on Alexandra and on Anna and on April Lauren when I do post that. I need to catch up with her. And who else do I cover? I don't even remember. Rosie when I do Rosie content. So like my audience is arguably made up of the same people that react to or watch and consume Amber's content, you know? And so if they're watching my content, they're also watching the other people that I cover. So they're not exclusive to Amber. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm like, I don't think this makes Amber's watch audience unique, is kind of where I'm going with that. Now, maybe I'm not catching the argument correctly, and that's entirely possible, but I could just not agree, and that's also okay. You guys feel free to debate down below. Robbins says that this is a good difference, that the fact that this is a unique audience, we're going to pretend like it is. Robbins is arguing that if this audience is unique to Amber, that this is good because this allows for a subculture that creates a community, right? It creates unity within the community. And this is a good thing because Robbins is all about that. Robbins says this is a silver lining. Good old Robbins. But it does create a subculture that does have its own rules, its own values, and its own ways of belonging within the community, as all subcultures will have. So, believe it or not, there are rules to the Amberverse. First rule of the Amberverse is should that be true?
I found a couple interesting perspectives, ones that even mentioned Amber, but I didn't really feel like they resonated with mine and other people's experiences as well that I've read about from Girlwood Watchers. I headed on over to another subreddit, one which I will not mention because if you're not already in it, it's not a healthy community for the mind to be in. There I found other perspectives that I think are much.
Another thing about the subreddits, especially the subreddits around Amber, is they kind of get nuked pretty regularly. So I would, even though this is a 3-year-old post, I'm willing to bet this subreddit doesn't exist anymore. I don't know, maybe it does.
Much more fitting.
If it's an Amber specific subreddit, it probably doesn't exist anymore.
For the majority of us.
Maybe it does.
I'm gonna speak for myself now when I say that. I think my fixation for her came from a little of the fact that her mundanity? I'm not sure how that word is in English, but
damn it, no, I don't either.
it's comforting, I think. And the shticks she pulls are a little bit funny, but mostly from the fact that I feel so much better about myself, my weight, my life, my accomplishments when I see her so unbothered to be living like that. And it's almost reassuring that way. Like I'm not doing that bad. It reminds me it could always get worse, I think. Which is still shitty, don't get me wrong, which is why this community is a guilty pleasure for many of us.
And that's another really important thing. Like, again, the self-awareness in this video is just beautiful. Ortner says that this is a form of parasitic intimacy because we are latching on to Amber as a way of living vicariously through her without being her, right? And Fassin says that we are moralizing by putting ourselves above Amber. Well, we're not you, kind of a thing. Robbins says that this is reassurance, right? Yes, we're comparing ourselves to Amber. We're using Amber as a mirror in this way, but it's in a positive way for the audience, right? It's not necessarily a positive way for Amber, but again, keep in mind, both with Fassin and with Robbins, it's important to remember that with their take on these things, we are the audience, right? We are not the ones causing this to be created. Amber herself is the one putting this stuff out there. We are the consumers, right? So this stuff exists because Amber is putting it out. We are consuming it. We wouldn't be able to compare ourselves to Amber if Amber didn't put these videos out. All right? That's the crux of Fassin and Robinson's arguments. Ortner makes arguments of society and power play and politics and that kind of stuff. So there would be a different argument from Ortner when it comes to that kind of a thing, like the whole like Amber feels compelled to put it out and feels pressure from us to put stuff out. Therefore, we as the audience are in a way pressuring her to create. So that would be Ortner's kind of way of looking at this. So there is an argument to be made that we as an audience do pressure Amber to create so that we can consume. I just want you guys to be aware of that. But when we're talking about Fassin and Robbins, they are coming at it from the angle of Amber is willingly putting this out on her own without influence from us, other than, you know, we are interacting with it. Again, going back to the economy of suffering, Amber puts it out there, we consume it, Amber benefits from that consumption, therefore it reinforces her to put it back out. Ortner would argue that that reinforcement is toxic, yada, yada, yada. Good times? Good times. All right, leave timestamps. Timestamps for questions, leave timestamps. And yeah, so Robbins again says that this reassurance of watching her is a form of self-care, even because we see Amber and we don't want to be Amber, and so we find ways to take care of ourselves so that we do not become Amber, or even just a mental kind of I'm not you. You know, how many times have we said that? You know, how many times have shit gone down and we've watched an Amber video and we've just been like, you know what, it ain't that bad. You know, how many times did we watch, you know, Tammy go off on Amber this past few weeks, and we've just been like, you know what, my family suddenly doesn't seem that bad. Or how many of us watched Tammy and Amber go off on each other and we were just like, I fully identify with that. You know? So, yeah. Just kind of want to put that out there.
It is a form of escapism similar to trashy reality TV or shock value educational shows. It's not an outlet to escape your current reality, but a reminder that it can always be worse. And when those people that are quote-unquote worse are doing bad things, it spurs on the sense of justice that even more shows capitalize on, like following along to court trials or an episode of those 10,000 police dramas that are always on TV.
Don't come for my police dramas. I think it is a form of escapism, though, and I don't think Lemon dismissed that it was or wasn't. They just brought it up very quickly and they moved past it quickly. It is a form of escapism, though, because, again, kind of like going back to the reaction channels trying to make themselves out to be more than what they are, but it's just mean-spirited entertainment. It's a form of escapism, though. If I'm doing this, I don't have to think about everything else, right? I don't have to think about the state of the affairs of the country that I'm in. I don't have to think about the rest of the shit that's going on in the world. I don't have to think about, I don't know, the bills I have to pay next week, or, you know, all the other little shit that's going on in my life. Like, I'm not saying I have a shitty life, or am I? But it's not as shitty as Amber's, kind of a thing, right? It is a form of escapism, just like any other form of trash TV, right?
Many, including me, it's almost sort of calming. Fascinating, sure, but mostly reassuring.
Niche entertainment.
Okay, Gorlies, let's play house, and I will be the dog. Another fascinating thing about
Did you just say you will be the dog? Sorry, I need to back that up. Yep, I will be the dog. Okay. Can I be the cat?
Amberlynn Reid is the community that has been built around her. I mean, she quite literally birthed a genre of YouTuber just by her uploading videos about her life.
Yup.
This woman created my side hustle. Like, that's insane. Regardless, even if it is silly for the subject at hand, it is safe to say that this is a part of human behavior. One of my favorite movies is Troll 2, an admittedly awful film. And part of the reason I love it so much is because of the other weirdos that also love it so much.
Okay. Fair. We're talking about cult films. All right, go on.
Niche cult communities feel so different from larger ones. It almost feels like you're part of a secret club,
True.
where you might not know each other's names, but you can start a funny phrase and that other stranger would totally just finish it for you.
Absolutely true. Charlie the Unicorn. I'm sorry, it will never not be funny. But community is cult clubs. Yeah, niche cult communities feel so different. You might not know each other's names, but you can finish each other's sentences. Yes. Ortner, of course, refers this to being a parasocial trap. We talk about this in Dark Anthropology all the time. If you're if you're Rosie right now, parasocial is like every third word that you say out of your mouth because you're still pissed off at Zachary Michael. ah, kind of proving a point here. But of course, Ortner has to bring this back around that this is forged through shared ridicule and obsession. Fassin says that this is what moral community looks like, because you're creating a community bound around judgments about Amber's worthiness, and you're tying it to the concept of a cult club. Cult in not the term like we are a cult, one of us, but just like a niche interest, right? Robbins, of course, says that yes, this might be that way, but it is a way of bringing a community together, again, with the inside jokes, and it can create a smaller community within a larger group that does help with a group identity that can, in the long run, become positive, especially in a more fractured world, i.e. the internet, right? So we all have something that we love the niche. Well, if you're here, here's your cult club. You're part of the Amberverse. We all have our little inside jokes, like the ankle, not just the channel, but dangling ankle, or my dangling lung, or dangled something, you know. What are our ones? Washcloths. Things we wish we didn't know. What are some funny ones? You know, there's a lot of inside jokes that once you've been in the community for a certain amount of time, you get. People just have to like type it out. The whole girly pop, you know, that kind of a thing. But it's an inside joke that people outside of the community don't get, right?
We finish each other's sentences, girls. Like, what comes to your head when I say, good lord? Hater Nation became just that for a lot of people. For me, it's almost post-ironic. Like,
Hater Nation would definitely fall inside of Ortner's concepts, though, but because Hater Nation, in my opinion, is maybe the darker aspects of the Amberverse, or at least, okay, let me put it this way. Hater Nation is Amber's idea of the darker aspects of the Amberverse. I don't really know exactly what Hater Nation is, you know, definitively, because I think depending on who you are, depends on how you would define Hater Nation. Like, Amber thinks everyone's Hater Nation, right? Like, everybody who reacts to her is Hater Nation. And then there are some people that self-identify as part of Hater Nation because they have a certain definition of what that is, right? And then there are some people within the Amberverse who would define Hater Nation because they don't view themselves as part of Hater Nation, but they do describe themselves as part of the Amberverse, right? And then, of course, you know, the antithesis to the Hater Nation would be the Am Babies. I don't know if anybody would, like, I know I have jokingly put out videos where I was like, let's be an Am Baby. And we might get back to those someday in, like, the far distant future. That all depends on Amber. But, like, I don't think anybody unironically calls themselves that, but there's definitely, like, the community does definitely identify other people within the community that way, right? Like, anybody who supports Amber typically gets labeled as an Am Baby. So there are definitely, like, groups within the group, right? And I think it just depends on, like, if you're how, I don't think there's any, like, hardcore definitions for those groups. Hater Nation just being kind of one of those subgroups within the group. But again, I don't really know exactly how to define Hater Nation, but I do know, or I do think that Hater Nation would fall more into Ortner's descriptions than it would probably into Robinson's descriptions. But that's just my personal take on it. That doesn't necessarily make. I don't necessarily mean that like Hater Nation is evil and horrible and blah. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that like Ortner would probably look at something like Hater Nation and see more of her darker aspects represented in Hater Nation than Robbins would probably see the good aspects, the lighter aspects. But this is my take on it. I could be wrong. Again, comment down below. Leave a timestamp. Please leave timestamps. Yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah, the idea of a drinking game based around how many times this woman uses a word.
Have I not seen this? Take a sip when Amber plays with her hair, films someone while they're unaware, checks herself out in the camera lens, says boo boo. Ugh. Hey guys, mispronounced common word. Take a drink when Amberlynn mentions not looking good. Film someone while they are aware and they are visually uncomfortable. Call someone or something a lie. Contradict. So this is older. Contradicts herself. Is mean to or shades her girlfriend. She doesn't have one. Mysterious bruise cut. Grime appears. Excuse me. Car montage. Take a shot. When she starts a new diet plan, quits a diet, blames the haters for anything. Name drops a YouTube or Instagram personality, cries. Made by yourgirl raritycat.tumblr.com. Yeah, okay. So this is an older one. It's kind of funny though.
World incorrectly or smacks her lips is funny because of how ridiculous it is. But then when you play it and you actually have genuine fun, is it still a joke? What is the line between hate watcher and content enjoyer?
I don't know. That's up to Ortner and Robbins.
Reactors and compilators teeter the line between healthy and obsessive viewership. I know making these videos is doing something to my brain, man. I just don't know what yet. This community is full of funny, intelligent people, but it's also weird as hell. Like, I feel weird as hell making money from it. I'm not gonna stop. I got a college tuition to pay, and besides, I love reading you guys' comments and talking to you. You're just so nice. Most of you.
I will say, I really honestly enjoy my comment section. My commenters are absolutely amazing. You guys are fabulous. I'm not going to lie to you guys. My point is like, I don't usually have anything that is controversial in my comment section, which to me is a really good sign. And kind of like what Lemon's saying, I enjoy reading the comments and interacting with the comments from my comment section. I know I've been behind a little bit, but I like getting caught up too. You guys say some really intelligent stuff. But this whole profiting from the cruelty. She says, I feel weird making money from it, but I can't stop. I got a college tuition to pay. You could stop, I guess. My thing has always been, here's my thing about the profiting part. It's not so much profiting off of Amber as much as it's profiting off of YouTube. If YouTube didn't monetize my shit anyway, I wouldn't care. But we do profit. So that being said, Ortner, of course, puts this at the cruelty of a side hustle. You know, Amber's suffering is the economy. It is the marketable content. But keep in mind, Ortner would argue that we, the audience, kind of coerce Amber into creating the content, right? That's Ortner's argument, or would be Ortner's argument. Fassin and Robbins both say that Amber's already putting it out there. We are just consuming it, right? So they take a slightly less hard line on that, in that Fassin says that Lemon is moralizing the act by saying it's weird to be profiting off of Amber's videos, i.e. off of Amber's suffering, but I have a good reason for it. I gotta pay bills, right? And so that is Lemon moralizing the situation by creating a moral economy, right? We talk about the critical moral anthropology. This is that moment right there. So this exploitation is being reframed in a way that makes it okay, right? Robbins, on the other hand, says that this is actually a testament of real value, of displaying actual value through skills, through editing skills and community engagement, and that by doing both of those things, you know, you're increasing your skill set and you're creating, again, a community engagement, that this is actually good coming out of something that is already there, right? Remember, Amber's already putting this stuff out there. We are just engaging with it. So even though Lemon is making money off of this stuff that Amber is already putting out there, right? It's already there, right? So in Robinson's case, yes, Lemon and I are still making money off of Amber's content, correct? But it's okay. It's good because it's creating value, not just for us as creators, but it's also creating value for the community at large, right? Ortner, of course, is like, no, we like Ortner though. Ortner's our favorite. Ortner's our favorite. Ortner's like our cranky grandmother. We like Ortner. All right, anyway.
Most of us have fun here, but
Yes, most of us have fun here. Again, I keep going back to, you know, like all of the little sub communities that are out there, like the various Reddits, the various Discords, again, the Facebooks, the Instagrams. How active are the Instagrams, honestly? Like, are there Instagram communities? I don't know that much about Instagram. Somebody said they were going to teach me how to use Instagram. Yeah. Threads? Are people using Threads? Do we use Threads? Do we? I don't know. Anyway, that kind of being the point, like, there are various social media networks out there that people use, and people still use X. I don't, but I know that the Twitter is still pretty active as far as, like, girl world communication, that kind of stuff. So, but there's that kind of stuff. So, but it's still community based. It still grows the community. It still creates interaction between creators, reactors, and the community at large, you know.
I can't deny that it's sometimes muddied by things that I think are genuinely wrong. I do not wish harm on this woman. Let me make that extremely clear. And you shouldn't either. She's awful, and it's satisfying to make fun of awful people, but don't let this imaginary hatred for a woman we don't know turn into something nasty. Keep it lighthearted, girls. That's what I gotta remind myself every time I'm editing a video.
I think that's a very important statement to make, is that the wishing of harm upon an awful person. My big thing about that is like, I don't want to sink to her level. Does that make sense? Yeah, we're not there yet. So I think that's a very big statement that, you know, Lemon says, I have to remind myself of that when I'm editing videos, that I don't want to wish harm on this person. I think she says, even like jokingly. And I think that's important to remember as creators when we do this kind of stuff. Now, I know certain people have varying opinions about this, and that is perfectly okay. You are allowed to have your own opinion on that matter. But I agree with Lemon on that particular aspect of it.
This post from the Amberverse subreddit, which got nuked, I'm pretty sure.
Like all the subreddits get nuked.
It was the previous one. No, I'm sure it's been like 4. Voices some of the thoughts I have about this, so shout out to Throw R.A. Announcer with a Z. I don't understand.
There's a sign up here that says, I was going to add screenshots here, but I forgot to take them before the subreddit got nuked.
That emotional attachment in the community. I've never been an Am baby and have been watching through reaction/compilation channels for the last 6 years or so. Amber annoys me and it grows in multiple facets, but I don't know, some people in Girl World are very emotionally affected by her. People crying over Verity, which yes is extremely sad, but seems a little much for an animal none of us ever met. People getting extremely angry at everything she does, offended by how she portrays mental illness, mad at her life and smugness, and I don't understand any of it. She's not a friend who wronged us. Even for people who were Am babies before and turned haters, still no one but her personal circle has actually been betrayed by her. The whole gaslighting the audience thing seems a bit silly when the overwhelming majority of her audience already doesn't believe her or already knows she's manipulative. Some people even hope for her to die. Everything she does is taken as something bad, and when she does do a lot of shitty things, not everything is that deep or intentional. There's always posts about how she's essentially triggered people, which is understandable, but you also don't have to watch the content if it's especially triggering. And if watching a morbidly obese woman who can hardly leave her apartment, let alone wipe her ass, triggers something deep in a viewer, it's probably some time for self-work. This is a woman who none of us are ever going to meet or personally know. Watching from a distance is one thing, but some of y'all are actually having dreams about her at night and making fan art and stuff. It just seems very parasocial. Am I alone in this? I just can't imagine being so emotionally invested, and I've been in the community for years.
All right, I want to back that up a little bit, not necessarily to re-listen to it, but she was having some. Lemon was putting some stuff up on the screen that I want to read. While she was reading that, and I didn't want to keep stopping her. So starting at the beginning where she starts reading that Reddit, she says, "I was going to add the screenshots here, but I forgot to take them before the subreddit got nuked." Very common. Anyways, I still read it all. It doesn't mean I agree. It doesn't mean I agree 100% with what they said, but I get it. I think it's a fair point. These types of communities get a bad rap. I think she means like the Amverse. These types of communities get a bad rap because a lot of people take them way too seriously. We forget she's just a rando on the internet because she's done very awful stuff. But keep in mind, negativity does not affect your own brain. Keep in mind, negativity does affect your own brain. Don't let her make you a negative person. Heart. All right.
There's a paper by Kelly Rickman Abdu that is titled Wreckage and Art.
Okay, this is where Lemon puts links down in her description. So if you haven't clicked on Lemon's video at this point, you're going to want to, because these articles are linked down below in Lemon's video, not mine. Ha ha ha. Now, before we get into this, though, I do want to talk about the parasocial overdrive, the parasocial effect. Amber does have a lot of parasocial relationships. I have always talked about Amber having a reverse parasocial relationship, where Amber is very parasocial with her audience. Amber views her audience differently than a normal, I think, differently than a normal creator, right? And that's just an argument that I make. But this reading that Reddit thread, commenting about how the person who wrote the Reddit thread, not Lemon just read it out. The poster of the Reddit thread was saying that some of y'all are having dreams about her and it just seems very parasocial. And that would be like parasociality at like its darkest moment, according to Ortner, because we are intertwining Amber into our private fantasy lives. Now, I don't know how you'd want to do that, but some people do. We talk about how Amber always has like this fucking harem of women that are just like waiting in the wing. And I think this might feed into that, right? Honestly, this is just me saying this. Like, some people have that deep of a parasocial relationship with Amber that they are willing to reach out to her through her DMs and other various ways, I guess, of reaching to her in order to become the next Miss Lynn, right? Madam Lynn. And Ortner says that this is actually a darker form of the parasocial relationship here. Fassin says that this y'all are actually having dreams about her and it just seems very parasocial. Fassin says that this is a form of moral judgment that we're passing on, that we're saying this is too parasocial on the watchers, and that we're passing judgment on the audience itself. And Robbins says that this parasociality is, Robbins is trying to put a positive spin on the parasocial relationship here, and is saying that it's producing a shared reality between the creator and the audience. I'm gonna have to not agree with Robbins here, because like parasocial, I don't. We were talking about this in the chat the other day, honestly, in one of my lives, but there's a point where, you know, we all have like a minor, all creators, all audiences have a type of parasocial relationship, or else you wouldn't be leaving comments on my videos, right? There would be no point in having a comment section, because you wouldn't feel driven to comment, right? And I wouldn't feel driven to react and or comment back, correct? Otherwise, because that's the social aspect of the YouTube, right? The YouTube. So, but the parasociality part of it comes out of thinking that there's more of a relationship there than just us having that momentary interaction via the internet, right? Us thinking that because I've interacted with your comment that we are now the best of friends forever. That's where that parasocial relationship starts to come from. And the commenter in this Reddit thread is kind of pointing out that certain individuals feel like Amber has somehow personally wronged them, personally attacked them, even though they have never met and they never will meet in person. And Amber has literally no clue who any of us are and never will have any clue who most of us are because A, she doesn't give a shit, and B, there's no way for her to ever know who us are. Yes, English. And that's kind of the point. And that's where that darker aspect of the parasocial comes in, where Ortner is talking about that darker aspect of the parasocial, because it's almost like anti-fandom, right? Instead of having, that oh, we're the best of friends parasocial relationship, you're having the we are the worst of enemies parasocial relationship. It's still a parasocial relationship. It's just, instead of being positive, I guess, if you want to put it that way, it's an obsessive negative relationship, right? And though Robbins is trying to say that this parasocial relationship, or he's trying to argue that parasocial relationships can be positive, Ortner is pointing out that this particular parasocial relationship that we are speaking about in this instance, not this, but the instance before this, is actually fairly negative, right? It's more negative even than, I would say, that idea that we are friends, even though we have never met and we've had like brief online interaction at best. Does that make sense? I need a mug that says that. Does it make sense? Yes. So now we're going to get into the car crash analogy, and I think this will be very familiar to a lot of watchers, only because like we've talked about this. This is not an unfamiliar argument within the girl world at all, especially not an unfamiliar conversation within the Amberverse, the train wreck effect. Everybody's going to watch the train wreck. We're just here to see how it ends, kind of a thing. And so, knowing that we're going into this, Ortner says that this spectacle of the disaster is dark anthropology at its finest. We are just here to watch the end result of it, and that's pretty damn dark, according to Ortner. Excuse me, but there's a rationalization that this is okay because Amber is such a bad person, that it's okay to watch this catastrophe, this spectacle, because Amber's bad and somehow Amber deserves this because of that badness, right? That's Ortner's take on that, right? My knee. Okay, apparently we're not sitting like that today. Fassin says that we are that we are weaponizing morality here, where we're saying that it's okay to laugh at this spectacle because, again, Amber's such a bad person. It's okay to point and laugh because she's mean. Again, Schadenfreude. This is where the Schadenfreude is coming in, right? We're finding pleasure in her discomfort, in her suffering, right? Again, though, going with Fassin and Robbins, Amber's the one putting this out there, right? Ortner, I keep reiterating Ortner's position in this, but we're sticking with Fassin and Robbins, and the reason for that is because Amber's the one putting it out there, right? Nobody's going to Amber's house and holding her hostage and making her create these videos. As a matter of fact, Amber's stopped making videos, kind of to punish us. Whatever. I know I'm behind by a couple lives, and I'm not upset about it. Anyway, but if we're weaponizing morality here and we're watching her content and we're pointing and laughing at her content, it is because she's putting it out there, right? We couldn't do that if Amber herself wasn't putting it out there, right? And which is kind of Robbins's point, that even though we are watching it with a morbid gaze, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to use a cough drop, it's creating a cultural shared good because we as a group are watching this catastrophe occur, and there's a comfort in that, right? Not only is there a comfort in watching this person who we have as a group declared to be morally bankrupt, watching them get what we as a society has decided is their comeuppance, right? So there's that vindication. There's also a comfort in, like, we're watching a catastrophe and we're comforting each other as we watch the catastrophe unravel, right? Like a bad thing is happening and we are comforting each other as we watch a bad thing occur. So we may not actually be enjoying watching the bad thing occur. We're just watching it because we can't look away. And so we're comforting each other as we're watching this bad thing happen, right? So that's where Robbins is coming in and saying this here. Sorry about the cough drop, but it's got to happen. All right. So I'm going to let her talk through, because I think we're almost to the end. Yes, we are. I'm going to let her talk through her car wreck thing, because I don't think I have any more notes until we get closer to the end. I'll probably interject a few more times here and there, but take it away, Lemon.
A driving force in the work of Jan Anders Nelson. Quote, "For centuries, prominent artists have shown an apparent interest in devastation through their work. Chaotic scenes of religious cataclysm and ensuing destruction dominated the art of the Middle Ages. In the 20th century, prolific artists like Andy Warhol and Jim Dine would modernize this trend.
Damn you, Warhol.
Exploring automobile accidents in their respective series, Death and Disaster 1963 and Car Crash 1960. These in turn inspire similar interest among contemporary artists like Jan Anders Nelson. In drawings like American Landscape and Midwestern Motel, and other paintings that comprise his online exhibition, Dirty Picture Show, Nelson explores the altered appearance of cars post-crash, with mangled grills, protruding parts, and crooked bumpers. The classic all-American cars seem to allude to a broken all-American dream. During the 60s and the early 1970s, the American public developed a fascination with car crashes and the destruction that they represent. People have always had morbid curiosities. Those who are most critical of lolcow culture classify those who consume it as quote-unquote middle school bullies, or people who are obsessed or parasocial. And even if they are largely correct with that description, I really don't think almost 250k middle school bullies found their way to this woman's channel. What about those who watch from afar? Who watch the videos, the reactions, the compilations, who read the subreddits, the community posts, who've never spoken a word to or about Amber, but have always just been there? I know I was one of them at some point before this, and I certainly wasn't bullying anyone. It feels icky to have it, but curiosity about the weird and the off-putting is much more common than we care to admit. Morbid curiosity as a concept was first posed by Aristotle, with a quote that roughly translates to, "We enjoy and admire paintings of objects that in themselves would annoy or disgust us." This aspect of the human psyche of seeking out unpleasant content just for the hell of it has been studied largely and understood slightly. Some papers I read, and that I will link in the description, define it as a personality trait. Others as a way to seek reassurance that death and misfortune follows a natural order. We are curious about the best and the worst case scenarios. We always have been. And the weightless failure and multiple falls from grace from an unlikable person is pretty much what many of us would consider a worst case scenario for our own lives. It's tough, and you'd almost feel bad for her if she wasn't so mean on top of that, which ends up almost giving you a self-righteous indignation and a thought of, well, it's bad that it's happening, but at least it's happening to a bad person. If I could, I'd make it so that there was never a car crash ever again. But since I can't, and there's one happening right outside my window, you know I'm gonna poke my head and look at it.
Okay, so the framing of Amber's failures, framing it as an almost natural, even philosophical narrative, Fassin says that's kind of trying to... Fassin says this is trying to make it ethically justifiable as curiosity. So Fassin says that what we're trying to do here is making it okay to watch this and to consume it and to interact with it, because it's just human nature. It's okay because we can't not do it, right? It's what we do naturally as humans. And so this is Fassin's basically saying that we're trying to give ourselves a pass here and be like, yeah, no, it's fine. We can't not watch, which is basically what Lemon says. If I could, I would say there would never be another car wreck, but since I can't, and there's a car wreck happening outside my window, I'm going to go look. I can't say I disagree. Ortner says that this is, that this morbid curiosity is the darkest side of human nature, and that we are using this form as a way of justifying our enjoyment of the downfall of Amberlynn. Yeah, maybe we are. Robbins says that this framing is it's a deeper a deeper cultural good, because it's a shared human experience that we can't disengage from. And again, it's a way of interacting with fear of the unknown, fear of misfortune, and it's a way of, as humans, to confront it as a group and to find comfort as a group as we interact with it from afar. It's happening to someone else, right? I can see it happening to someone else. I can maybe imagine what it might be like if it were to be me in that situation, but I'm watching it happen to someone else. I am safe at a distance with a group of people who I can fall back on for support should I need it, right? That's what Robbins is saying here.
Honestly, I really just wanted to make a Think Fizz video like this because YouTube has become somewhat of a part of my life. I am a college student,
and I think you did a fabulous job doing a think piece video like this, because it got me thinking. So good job, Lemon. I don't know if you give a shit, but I think you did a good job.
I'm lucky enough to have parents that support me, but we're not loaded. And I just lost a job that gave me an extra source of income. I was never in a million years thinking of monetizing this channel. I started just mainly as a way to learn video editing. It feels weird, you know? Receiving a paycheck for an admittedly morally reprehensible thing, and it's been eating at me for a while now. I've been reading you guys' comments, and it's a good feeling, you know? That you guys enjoy my humor and know my references, and it just feels like I'm part of a club. I was skeptical of showing my face. I know that doesn't end really well often, but I just wanted to make a more serious, more researched video, at least for once, because this is a topic that's, as I mentioned, having an impact in my life, so I wanted to speak on it. I'll still be making my videos. I know my commentary is a bit mean on them sometimes, and I do feel a little bad, but that's just because I think I'm a bit mean sometimes, and you guys seem to like it, so I guess that's that. I don't know whether I'll be showing my face again soon, maybe. I really enjoyed doing the research for this video, so I guess we'll see. For now, just, I don't know, take care.
Oops. Alright, so, wrapping this up. Lemon says, it feels weird receiving a paycheck for something morally reprehensible, but I enjoy the comments and I feel like I'm part of a club. That really just kind of summarize things that Lemon said earlier in the video. We did kind of already go over that. And, of course, Ortner would say that simply acknowledging this doesn't erase the darker aspects of what we are participating in, because, you know, Ortner's a stick in the mud. I'm sorry. We're wrapping this up. We're allowed to make fun now. But Ortner does say that when creators critique themselves, it's good, but if you continue the behavior anyway, it shows a shallow level of self-awareness. Fair. Fassin says that anthropology, obviously, is within the same bind, where we document suffering while also profiting from it. Again, remember, Fassin pushes that Amber is the one putting this content out. We, the reaction community, we, the compilation community, we are merely documenting it, right? We are finding different ways of interacting with it. Lemon makes compilation videos. I make reaction videos. We are just documenting what Amber is already putting out there, right? But in that aspect, we are still profiting from it. And we are profiting from Amber's suffering, the suffering that Amber is already sharing. But being critical of our own participation in this makes us aware and can be us holding ourselves accountable. Not me holding the rest of you accountable, me holding myself accountable. Lemon says at the end, I know my commentary can be mean sometimes, but I think I'm mean, right? Lemon makes some very self-aware comments throughout this video, and I'm very excited that she does, right? And Lemon's not attacking any other creator. Lemon is making self-aware statements about themselves. I am making self-aware statements about myself, or at least I hope you guys are taking it that way. Robbins says that this self-awareness also highlights good community building, good community culture, and even when looking at the suffering of other people. Again, Robbins is under the impression that Amber is putting this out on her own. No one is making Amber do this, right? Amber is putting it out there, and we are part of the economy that Amber has created, built off of her own suffering, right? So Fassin is saying, by being self-aware of this, you know, we can keep ourselves in check. Robbins is saying that being self-aware of this allows us to build a community around something that is occurring anyway. Both Fassin and Robbins are saying that we are documenting it as anthropologists, which, I don't know, you can say this is a form of anthropology. It's definitely a form of documentation in his history. Sure, whatever. I don't care at this point. Ortner says we're all awful people. Naughty. So, yeah, to kind of summarize all of it, Ortner takes a very dark look at these kind of things, but Ortner is, of course, you know, the originator of the term dark anthropology, looking at the darker aspects of, you know, power and suffering within society, and how we as anthropologists document it and interact with it. Fassin wants to look at the moral aspects of culture and how anthropologists interact with morality and how humans create morality within society. And of course, keeping in mind that we are humans studying humans, and so therefore we cannot disengage from these activities because we are humans. And then Robbins just likes to look for the bright and shiny, the silver lining, if one will. I don't necessarily disagree with any of them. I think they all make very good points. And I think Lemon's video here really did kind of create an opportunity for me to sit here and kind of combine, to sit here and make this video that I don't know how else I would have actually have made this at any point. So I really like Lemon's think piece here. I hope Lemon does more of this kind of stuff in the future. And if you guys would put a lemon down as your emoji down below, that would be great. Definitely go to the link, go check out Lemon's video. Like I said, there was some stuff that Lemon had up on the screen that I didn't read. And honestly, if you want to watch the thing without me interrupting it every 3 seconds, now's your opportunity. Definitely go say something nice on Lemon's chat there. Yep, comments. Yep, your emoji is going to be a lemon. If you're going to leave a comment, please leave a timestamp, just because I'm not going to remember what the hell we were talking about by the time we get there. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my members. You guys rock. Thank you to everybody who's going to hit the thumbs up button. And yeah, I just truly appreciate everybody who sat through this entire video. I hope you all feel a little bit smarter, because I'm part of the 10% of this community that does more than just create mean-spirited entertainment. Anyway. And yeah, I will see everybody in the next video.
This
Bye!
is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.